At the time of the attack, we definitely had the conversation of maybe we shouldn't raise chickens anymore. And then I just kind of rebutted with, it's so easy, why should we stop when we could just make this slight improvement and make it a much more solid situation? Well, it was a matter of time, and it happened again. And so we had to take on this huge project that I didn't want to do, but that's homestead life, right? So the other night we were sitting in the house and my son comes out to put the chickens to bed. It's about maybe 7 o'clock, 7:30, and we hear scurrying through the woods. The dog takes off after it. My son starts crying. He gets scared. We come out here, and 3 chickens have been killed. So it's kind of an issue, right? And so for a long time on this channel, I wanted to talk about chickens. It's a big part of our garden. They supply us with eggs. We sell the eggs. We use the manure for compost. It feeds our garden, which in turn feeds us. So they're a big part of our whole system here. But I had a problem talking about them because honestly, once you get them all set up, there's not a whole lot to do other than take care of them. Well, now that this has happened, we have to raise more chickens because we do sell the eggs, and we don't get enough eggs to make a big deal. I like to call it toilet paper money. You know, you just get a little bit of money to kind of add in to your monthly budget or whatever. And also we get free, especially at an all-time high. So after this happened, we decided to come in and totally revamp our chicken run and upgrade our chicken coop where we saw fit and just reevaluate the whole situation. And this is basically what came out of it. So I am not a carpenter, and is going to be clear as day as we look at this, but you can see here is our new situation we have here. We had the tarps up here before and all that, and we totally tore down every single thing from this point forward, and then we just added another roof to the coop. 32 by 4s later, 100 feet of hard wire and 75 feet of chicken wire later, and this is what you have. So we are down to 6 chickens right now, but we will be changing that soon. And so you can see we have a much sturdier coop. Now, if you haven't seen any of the videos before, I'm gonna give you a little view because I haven't totally cleaned up my mess yet. Here's the wire that we have on here, right? Now let's go over here to the pile of the other coop. And you can see right here is the pile of what's left of it. Now just think about this. If I take that coop right now and I can't ball it up like this and make a pile. So it's just a lot sturdier. Now, this is all part of raising animals, raising chickens. You're gonna have these issues. That's why I'm a big proponent of one, having a cat, because they work on rodents. They, deter certain things from being around. And 2, having a dog, because as you can see, she's always out here doing something. She alerts us and chases off predators. So what was the predator? Well, we've had raccoons in the past. We've had foxes. I've seen coyotes, and so we think that it was either a fox or a coyote because of the time of day. Raccoons are in the middle of the night situation. They will come in and they will get in the middle of the night, and coyotes are anywhere from dusk till dawn. So we're right at dusk, and foxes will come in like right in the middle of the day. They don't care. So what happened was, if we come down here to the coop, to the run, let me rephrase that. There's right here, there was a hole, and we had covered it and it hadn't been an issue. Well, it became an issue, clearly. So this is what led to this. So that being said, we're going to be raising new chickens now. We have rebuilt this run, so we'll be doing some videos about how to raise chickens, or how we are raising chickens from chicks all the way up, integrating them into the new flock, all that stuff. Because I just didn't have any need to do it, because we hadn't had to buy chickens in a couple of years. We had done really good since we made it so the coop could shut the door at night and the chickens were in there locked. It didn't really matter if there was a hole in the run and the chickens could get into it, or the predators could get into it at night, because they were locked up. But now that we have either a fox or a coyote, we have to be aware of that, and we have to take certain measures. And so what are the measures we're doing? Well, obviously this is a pretty solid structure. There are a couple corners we had to cut because of our situation where we have it placed out here in the woods. And so when we went to go concrete in the posts, we couldn't go as deep as we wanted because there's roots underneath. So we went as deep as we could. I mean, there's not but so much you can do. Then the other thing is we can get a sonic detector. So it's like a motion activated sonic detector. We've got one on order. Animal walks in front of it. It lets off a high ultrasonic sound within the 40 to 45 kilohertz range. And it'll scare off the canine, which would either be the coyote or the fox. And the other thing is me. So yes, I'm actively hunting a fox or a coyote at this point. We have to get rid of them. So I know there's people out there that are like, oh, that's not cool. That's not cool. You're going to hurt the animal. Well, what I'm going to say is until you see your wife and your child crying because our livestock got killed, it's a safety hazard and it's an issue. And so I've got a number 412 gauge waiting for him. We just have to find him, and it is a matter of time before I get him. He will be gone. We have done the same thing with raccoons before. We have dispatched raccoons in the past, stuff like that. It's not pretty, but this is the way it is. I don't want to be any confusion about this or my stance on this. This is the way it is. When they come on here and they attack your animals and your son's 10 feet away from them and you've got a predator that could do one or two things. It could run or it could go straight towards them. You got to take care of it. And so that's where we're sitting right now. So we're going to be working on that. It may take some time, but he will be dispatched of appropriately. And then he will be moved on somewhere else. But for right now, we have got this all set up. We have got the roof put on here. So now the coop will be dry. And that's a big sanitary issue that we wanted to solve anyways this year. So this just kind of spurred that on. And it's not like any of our chickens have ever gotten sick. But when it rains, it gets nasty. And I don't really want them standing in just doo-doo. You know what I mean? Like they poop all the time. So we got to get rid of them. We also wrap the top in this hardware cloth, our hardwire. So if you can see up there, we put it on top of that. Now it seems like it's overkill, but if we look at it from a practical standpoint, if we had a storm and the roof gets ripped off, now we have another layer of protection. Okay. If you go back 4 years ago, we had Hurricane Florence. We had a tree fall on top of the coop. Terrible. We were able to rebuild it, but the chickens were stuck on this side of the run. The tree was laying like this, going down the middle, and we couldn't get out there for 3 days. Well, overnight, the hurricane let up because it just kind of sat on us. And when the weather let up, guess what happened? They came in, they got our chickens. And that was simply because there was no protection over that once the roof had gotten destroyed. So this is just another layer of protection. And then we also opted to use this right here, this plastic sheeting, for two reasons. One, because it's really light, so it doesn't add any more weight structure. And then the other thing too is if you look inside the coop, you can see that there's light inside of the coop. So it's letting light into the coop. So it's not a dark, dingy place. We also took the opportunity to replace the roosting bars as well. So with that being said, now in the winter time, so chickens will naturally stop laying eggs in the winter time. It's a light issue. You can trick them by turning on lights and stuff like that, but you also lower their lifespan, which is what we don't want to do. We don't want to put any undue stress on them, and we don't want to change nature to any extent. But by letting the sunlight in, maybe we'll get another couple weeks worth of eggs or something like that, which is a big deal. Because from about December until February, we may get 3 eggs when we were getting a dozen a day. So, we may get 3 eggs a week through that period. So if it helps eliminate that, gets us a couple more eggs, this, that, and the other, then it's all fine. Not to mention it'll warm it up in the winter time. Not that we really need it. The chickens are really resilient to cold weather, but it's just kind of there. So I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. I am not a carpenter by any stretch of the imagination. There are a lot of things I could have done differently. One thing is, if I was replanning this completely, would just be to plan out this roof a little bit better. I could come back and cut it, but I wanted more of an overhang. So yeah, it's not totally straight, but again, I'm not a carpenter, never claimed to be. I had a friend of mine help me, and we were both kind of joking. This is a custom situation. This coop is totally custom, and it is, because nothing lined up, nothing was right. But what it took for us to go from this point forward were 32 by 4s, 8 sheets of this plastic, 100 foot of wire, a couple boxes of screws, a bag of concrete, and then chicken wire to put on the bottom. And so for here, what we did is we tried to originally bury it, and because the root mass is so thick on the ground, you can't dig down here very deep. So we just laid it down, and then we used these ground staples right here to put them on there. And that'll help, because if an animal comes up and tries to dig to get in, this will stop them. So they'll get discouraged and they'll go away. Now time will tell, but you can hear her laying an egg right now, which is a good sign. So we're gonna be getting chicks sooner than later. And then we're gonna be raising them from 0 on up. I mean, at the time of the attack, we definitely had the conversation of maybe we shouldn't raise chickens anymore. And then I just kind of rebutted with, it's so easy, why should we stop when we could just make this slight improvement and make it a much more solid situation? So that's what we're gonna do. Our goal in this coop, we can hold, I mean, technically you could hold about 15 chickens. We're gonna max it out at 12. A dozen eggs a day, it's not bad. It's more than enough eggs for us to eat. We supply our friends and we sell them and all that. So it's definitely like an all-around win. I actually did the math. If I were to sell only the eggs, it would take me 10 weeks to make back what we spent on the run of the coop and all the upgrades, which when I say all the upgrades to the actual coop itself, the only thing we did is put in 2 roosting bars and replace the roof. None of the rest of it had to be changed. Now I was expecting to have to maybe tear down the coop as well and rebuild it, but luckily that didn't happen. And to be honest, that would have been a lot easier than the run. The coop's not the hard part, it's the run.